Chambers Brooks.
Good afternoon. The Public Safety Committee will come to order. We appreciate our citizens being with us this afternoon. Also, council members and committee members, we only have one item on the general committee, and we have a few on the consent agenda. We'll take the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes likewise. Motion carries, madam. We go to the regular agenda.
Item G1, information on public safety building utilizations and police districts.
We're going to be discussing police districts. This has been a long time historical discussion. It is nothing new to talk about having districts, and we now have them on the table again. Since that time, though, we have added quite a few other things as far as public safety for our citizens. Different kinds of buildings, different types of activities going on. City Manager, who's going to give us this report?
Assistant City Manager Greg Turner.
All right, Mr. Turner, please.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, as you just indicated, the city has been looking at police districts for a long time. We've also been talking with you for quite a while about the physical condition of the Public Safety Center. The building was constructed approximately 29 years ago, but because of the 24-hour day operations there and the 7 days a week, 365 days a year activity there, the building has suffered a much faster deterioration than a typical office building might suffer over that length of time. So for that reason, a lot of the mechanical systems have essentially worn out and are in need of complete replacements. As we look at those two issues, police districts and the need to completely renovate the mechanicals in the Public Safety Center, staff said what we ought to look at, and council actually directed us to look specifically at a comprehensive evaluation of all of the properties that the city had in order to be able to provide services for public safety. And so what this report is providing you is a list of what is currently available. There are other properties out there that we are talking about, but these are properties that are currently available either by city ownership or by lease opportunities or by approved leases to the city. And they are the Public Safety Center, obviously, is under our existing ownership. The Beatty Building, which is on Patterson Avenue, and approximately 60,000 square feet could be renovated on the second floor. That space is currently just shell space, but it could be upfit for office, or it could be upfit for evidence storage and forensics. Those are options that we certainly are going to look at for you and evaluate for you. The Phillips Building, which is at the corner of 3rd and Church Street, is being renovated by the county, and that building has several floors that are not renovated yet. But the county has advised us that one floor of approximately 30,000 net square feet would be available for a lease to the city. So we've looked at that and had actually a full evaluation of what we could do with up to 2 floors in that building before we got the information about 1 floor being available. The Thomas Smothers Army Reserve Center on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive across from the football stadium is another piece of property that we talked about last month that is available to the city. It will revert to city control in 2014, and it has several buildings on it that have potential for public safety use. The Union Station building, which the city acquired, has capacity for some activities that would be public safety related, as long as they were consistent with the purposes for which we acquired the property, which were for transportation. So these would need to be public safety activities associated with transportation. But that's certainly a possibility in the Union Station. The Lowry Street facility on Lowry Street at Lowry Court is a huge piece of property with 360,000 square feet of interior space. As we've talked about in the Public Works Committee, the plan for that is to utilize most of that space for activities that are currently at City Yard. But the building does have potential for short-term storage of large vehicles that are in the police department. The Winston Mutual Building, the City Council has authorized a short-term lease for the police department's crime prevention unit, and that would consume approximately 1/2 of one floor in that building. And finally, the last identified site so far is the Lucia site on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, which we talked about last month and which actually precipitated the council's, or the committee's direction to staff to go back and look at a comprehensive list of properties. There are 3 options that staff has identified for dealing with these issues of the condition of the Public Safety Center. The 3 options do have certain prerequisites, which we think have to be done no matter which option you choose. And those prerequisites or core options or core elements are to build the 2 district stations. And let me stop here and say that when we talked about police districts last time, back in 2010 and 2011, we were looking at it from the standpoint of the city leasing space in an area, actually 3 areas of town, and making the renovations to those spaces at the city's cost. There was concern from the council about the city investing significant amounts of our money into property that we didn't own. So the options that we're evaluating or proposing to you now would be for the city to renovate the Lucia building at the developer's cost and to acquire and build 2 additional stations in the 3 areas that the committee had identified back in 2010, 2011. So unlike the last time where we would be investing significant costs in the upfit of other people's property, this concept would look at us investing in 2 properties that we would own and letting the developer of the 3rd property make the investments for the area we would lease.
Mention the 2 that we own again.
The 2 that we own or the 1 that we own?
You say the 2 that we own, and
The 2
then
that we own have not been identified yet.
what have done.
The areas that have been approved by the committee are up at the area of North Point Boulevard near University Parkway and in the Haynes Mall Country Club Jonestown Road area. Those are the other 2 areas that the council identified. And the first area that the council identified is the Wautown Reynolds Park area, which includes the Lucia. And these areas are indicated on the map that you see there as large circles approximately the size of a quarter on that sheet of paper. Also on that map that you have are all the other locations that I identified, as well as the properties that the city already has for public safety activity. And I'll be happy to send a PDF of this out to the council members for easier reading.
Yeah, I'm like,
We've heard the report, and we may have some more questions. It's now, council people, would you all like to start your input? Councilmember Montgomery?
Question, do we have a dollar amount? I don't see dollar amounts associated with what we have in our packets.
We don't have hard figures for these. If you wanted to have a rough estimate, I would say that options 1 and 2, as depicted here, would be on the order of $20 million, and option 3 would be in the order of $15 million, including the cost of the core or common elements.
Right. And, okay. And that the reason I asked that question is just to look at where we get the best bang for our buck. We're gonna have to spend the money. What is gonna be the thing that gives us the best bang for spending those dollars? And I think that's where it comes from in terms of, or at least my perspective, of 20 million, 15 million. If it's something, if the work has to be done, if we're looking at the Public Safety Center, and that would be the total amount, I think it's good to, and does that include, if we just looked at the Public Safety Center, the total amount of work that needs to be there, that's the 15?
The costs here are for doing the mechanical renovations to the Public Safety Center under options 1 and 2.
Okay,
Option 3 does not upfit the Public Safety Center.
Okay, and so, again, to me, if you're looking at between 15 and $20 million in expenditures that we're probably going to have to do, to me, it's good for us to take this look of stepping back and saying, okay, this is what we have to spend or what we're gonna be spending, doing this in this area now. Where are the areas and how do we get the best bang for our buck and where we're going? And that's kind of how I would look at it and would like to see as we dig deeper in each one of these on what's gonna get the community the best bang for the dollars that's gonna have to be spent.
All right, Councilwoman?
Thank you. It's good to have options, and I appreciate staff's work to get options. But, and I may have missed it, which certainly I could, but have we had an opinion from the chiefs and EMS on what is the most desirable outcome? I mean, do we need to be in one location? I mean, and again, I appreciate the options, but I guess I'd appreciate more the professional expertise in letting us know what is it you think's in the best interest of all your departments and people and ultimately our community.
Well, since we have,
I can answer that. So, and I've talked to the Chief Roundtree about it. We are large enough of a city to really benefit from police districts. So it is the recommendation of the police chief and all staff that we pursue the districts, the 3 districts, so that there are many gains it will get from having police districts. Visibility, reductions in the amount of time they have to drive. There are just lots of good reasons to have police districts. And I strongly believe we need to finish the Beatty building. We need to move for all of forensics there. Right now, it's separated. We do part of it there and a lot of it back at the Public Safety Center. It's not efficient. I also think that based on the fact that the county is only willing to lease us 1 floor of the Phillips building, and we can't move everything into Phillips building, only parts of our operation in there. To me, and I think the chief and Mr. Turner agree, option 1 would be the better recommendation. We would maintain our own facility. We'd renovate Public Safety Center 1/2 at a time, hopefully, and not kick in the costs for an earthquake seismic code.
go back again, say again, what did you say? We will what?
We would maintain our own building. If we did option 3, we would be a tenant. We would have to sell the Public Safety Center, and we would be a tenant of the county in their building. The county, we asked about purchasing actually 2 floors. The county came back, and because they're moving probation and parole into the building, and they want to keep 2 more floors vacant for potential future jail expansion, the county's indicated that they only have 1 floor available to us, and that they would much prefer not to condo the building. They would prefer for us to lease it. And under those circumstances, I think it's better for us to maintain our own facility at the Public Safety Center.
Now, when we got the Beatty building, one thing we said we were going to do, and you gave that report, you and Chief Norris, we were going to take and get the best out of that building. Just as Councilmember Montgomery said, let's step back. Well, I want us to step back, but I want us to go back and say, pull that information to tell exactly what did we say we were going to do with the Beatty building. My understanding that this was an ideal place where we could store all of what we needed, and we could keep a record of everything we had, and this is the place. And that's what you all convinced us with.
And I'm still recommending that we finish the Beatty building. We've done 2 parts of the Beatty building. We've done the training as well as evidence. The 2nd floor, I think we need to finish that off for more evidence storage and for all of our forensics labs, so that all of the forensics can be in that building, which was in the original plan. And then the Beatty building would be completely for those functions.
Well, then, if that's the way we're going to do, then we would need to know how many square feet we have still that we're talking about, how much money we're talking about. Also, we talked about police, but we haven't said fire. Now, what about fire? Well, they've been housed in...
Fire would stay in the renovated Public Safety Center Fire would stay in the Public Safety Center, along with, we'd move emergency management in there. We'd have more space to have a better emergency operations center in the building.
So we're saying we're gonna keep our public safety center.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay. I thought that, how much money we're gonna have to spend if we keep the public safety center to bring it up, what's supposed to be in there?
I'm gonna let Mr. Turner answer that, but it depends on how much we have to do to the building.
That's correct. If you are talking about more than just repairing the mechanicals, we will go back and prepare that estimate for you. What we've estimated thus far is the cost of repairing the mechanicals, moving people, as Mr. Garrity indicated, into one half of the building while we make those renovations. And then when the renovations are done, move them to the other half, renovate the second half, and then move everybody to their final locations. The reason for that cumbersome double relocation concept is that the building is mechanically divided in half vertically. And so we can't do it one floor at a time like you would anticipate in a normal building because the mechanical systems aren't set up that way. So we'll have to divide the building in half and renovate it in half, or move everybody out and renovate it all at one time. That second option is more expensive, which is why Mr. Garrity is saying the staff recommendation is option one, which does it one half at a time.
And I want to give you an opportunity when I say this. I've always felt we ought to own our own buildings. And to even want to enter into an agreement with the county, to me, seem like you want to stay clear of that particular avenue to follow.
If we were gonna enter an agreement, it'd be my recommendation that we need to be a partner, not a tenant
All
with the
right.
county.
Councilman Taylor, Montgomery, do you want to speak?
Yes, right now, thank you.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, I mean, we don't mind you speaking, but just in the proper order.
Sorry,
Madam.
sorry, it's my first day back, I'm
Ladies first.
confused.
Ladies first.
Go ahead and speak. That's all right, yes, go ahead.
And since the Public Safety Center is in the North Ward, I thank you for allowing me to talk about this. But I'm concerned about the two, okay, we have the core and the common elements, and then we have option one. So, I mean, the core and the common elements are not part of the options, or is it? It's part of the
You
options.
have to do the core, and the core and common elements have to be done regardless of which of the three options you select below. So they are common as you would do in any of the others. So we would we would establish 3 districts. We'd move crime prevention, as the council has directed, to Winston Mutual Building. We would finish the Beatty Building. And those things have to be done really first. So we free up enough space to then renovate the Public Safety Center or move out in option 1, 2, or 3. So the core things have to be done with any of the options.
Thank you. Excellent question, Councilmember Adams. I would like to say to the committee that I do support our city manager's recommendation. I think that it's a good recommendation, and since day one, you know, the first day I've sat in this chair, I've been advocating for district offices. I think it's an excellent concept. Madam Chairman, you mentioned fire. If you look at, you know, the model of our fire department, the fire department is not located in one centralized area. However, they're out in different districts and different areas so that they can better service the citizens in our community. Our own police chief has sat here, and he's told us that he also advocates for the same concept when it comes to the police department. I think in order for the police to have a better understanding of what's going on in the communities, it makes more sense for them to be in those communities. Now, in 2010, 2011, I believe the council was concerned with having to pay to upfit buildings, and especially buildings that they don't own. In this option, you know, the council does not have to pay to upfit the building. The developer will incur the cost of the building when it comes to the Lucia site, which is something that I've been advocating for some time. And I think it's very prudent to get the other 2 districts out in other areas of the city to provide services. So again, Mr. Garrity, I support your recommendation, and I know I'm not the chair, but I think you're looking for direction. Does this require a motion, or are you just looking for direction?
We're just looking.
Now.
Well, I have the ability to offer a motion on the floor. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
Not quite, not quite. I'm gonna let the other one speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna give you,
Okay.
all right. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I have a couple more questions in the comment. The work that's needed on the Public Safety Center currently, how long have we known about this in terms of just knowing we had to do this.
8 years. 10
Right,
years.
Yeah.
and the only reason I bring that is because I don't think that the Public Safety Center is the only building or only thing we have that has some great needs in terms of work that needs to be done. I think we have, across the whole city, we have properties and infrastructure needs and capital improvements that we need to make. And I think this is just one part of a big pie that we have to start dicing up over some time. The other part that was mentioned about county and potential partnership, I believe that a better relationship with the county when it comes to law enforcement is only good for everybody. Now, how do we make that work is you know, a whole nother story. But I think and I'm not in law enforcement, so they may totally disagree with me. But I think when you have more communication and better, you can have some better services that happens there. Even down to some things when I see even with fire department EMS things that, you know, I was traveled this over the 4th and went to South Carolina. One thing that I saw is, and just looking around, is, you know, even the EMS in Richland County, South Carolina, has almost like fire stations. They have subsets that are set aside, and that's different. And I think, and again, it's about how do you deploy services better to the communities that you serve. And I think that's really what we're looking at and how we can be able to effectively do this. And so I think I support what we're looking at. And the last thing, and I don't want to convolute the conversation at all, but the properties that are, and we're talking about the Beatty building, it just makes me think, because I've driven around a couple of those other areas there. There are a couple other properties that are near that and across the street from that. Was that building originally a part of that whole complex?
Now, when we first got started, they stated something about looking at that building across the street. You want to update us a little bit, please?
The building across the street was looked at. The physical conditions of the building were such that it would have been challenging to try to renovate it for any additional public safety activity. I know that council also had discussion about other things that could be done on the second floor of Beatty, and one of the things we encountered was the seismic requirements to upfit that building to be a permanent housing location for public safety were problematic, which is why we're back to the recommendation for it to be evidence and forensics on the second floor.
Mm-hmm. Have you completed?
Mhm.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I don't think we should ever lease. Let me take that back. When I look at the property that the community owns, I think we need to look first and foremost at that property that the community owns. If we can't make this work with already owned, then we need to be looking at divesting the community of the property. I've been a big proponent of that for several years. That's a C.W. Myers cliche. Don't ever lease anything. If you wait long enough, you can own it.
Mm-hmm.
The public safety building, at one time, I think, and help me, was there some, I don't know if it was even at the staff level, but maybe just council level conversation about looking at closing that street that, what is that?
8th Street.
8, or is it
Is
the
it
other?
8?
It's a
That cuts between public safety and I guess the locksmith
8th.
8, that's,
there.
that
It's
is-
going to become Martin Luther King.
Is that,
Yeah.
That's actually not possible to close because it's part of the detour route when Business
Right,
40.
Martin Luther King.
So that road actually has to be
Detour?
upfit. Yes, that portion of.
forever and
8th Street
ever, amen?
Yes.
Until
Basically.
Business 40 opens back up, but
Yeah.
yes, for all practical intents and purposes, forever.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, it'll go all the way down to Broad,
Okay, so
Northwest
that's-
Boulevard.
Because I know at some point, we had also said there was lack of parking at public safety.
Because we have the take-home program, we don't have as much of a problem now with parking. And of course, with the districts, you're going to move a lot of the cars out, so we'll have plenty of parking.
Okay, and I haven't got to the districts yet. But if you're looking at a consolidation primarily of all of your public safety departments and users and contributors, I mean, is that site big enough as it sits? I mean, there's only vertical growth, there can be horizontal growth there.
If you did not do districts, you would have a growth problem at the existing facility.
Okay.
So you
But
need to
if
do
we
districts.
do districts, I just need to be sure, that site on that property is adequate to meet 25 to 50 years worth of need at that site?
Yes, because essentially you're going to be reducing by approximately half the number of people who will be operating out of that building if you implement districts.
Okay. And I'm sorry to keep being a stickler, but in the new public safety world, and all of the things that are required for the new post 9/11 world, do we have sufficient dirt to support any increased services that we would need to consolidate in that public safety building?
That's one would actually need to go back and talk to the chief about what his post 9/11 needs would be, if it was a new
Okay.
building. Keep in mind, it's an existing building we're talking about reutilizing.
Right,
But if it was being built as a new building, that would obviously introduce new requirements.
right, no, I understand that. The district offices, I've been a supporter of that for forever. It seems like it is, it's like the fire department. You know, you need to have that scattered out into the community for lots of different reasons. It gets back to what we own and what we have to lease. So I'm concerned about the commitment of a district office in a non-city-owned facility. And I'm a little bit concerned, and I think it was actually you, James, that brought it up, that one of the things you said in support of district offices was that every ward had a city-owned piece of property that could accommodate a district office, though I do not see mine on this. I believe it is on Brookstown, which is where we keep the cars, right?
If I may, I believe the bike patrol in North Ward. Okay. Well, maybe that might be an idea for the other two circles. We're talking all three. I mean,
So, I believe that's right, isn't it, Mr. City Manager? I mean, we own that property, do we not, or was that part of the, are you gonna make me look bad by telling me that?
The Brookstown property,
Uh-huh.
it's actually owned by Brookstown Development Partnership, and we lease it back.
I should have cooled my jets on that. Never mind.
Yeah, I agree that we need to own as much as we can. Yes.
Councilman Mercer, I agree that in most cases, we need to own as much property as we can. But in some cases, you know, it may not be such a good idea to quite own it. You know, when you own a home, you have vested interest in that community. And if you decide to move to another community, you're kind of stuck in where you are. And Mr. Turner,
Can I just clarify that?
yeah, please do.
It's not that we need to own as much as we can, it's that we need to utilize as
Any
much
that
as
we have, yeah.
Not that we need to go out and
And
become
just buy
landowners, right?
Okay, point taken. Mr. Turner, in the city's history or existence, have there ever been district offices in the city of Winston-Salem?
I'm not aware that they have, but
Let's go back a minute. Define when you say district office a little bit more,
Well-
to see if I can help
Well,
you.
there's a distinct difference between police satellite stations and district offices. Satellite stations, the police would come there maybe from between certain hours, and they would go to home. District offices, they will report to these centers 24 hours a day, giving a constant police presence in the community. So my question was, have we, in the city's existence, had a police office, district office, where the community had 24-hour police presence?
Let's see if the chief, come up a minute. See. And then you think, Mr. Page, since you were police once, to see, because I know we had those little satellites, could you help us?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good
It was
evening.
prior to my employment, but from my understanding, we did have some offices where the officers worked out of different buildings other than the headquarters.
Yeah, I know they did, like, they used to work out of Crystal,
Mhm.
Sunrise.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
did you say those were? How would you say they are known as what then?
Back then, from my understanding, they were not called district offices, but they were district offices the way we refer to district offices now.
Okay.
but they were more like satellite offices. Would that be the general consensus? So I guess my concern is, yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. You want to say something, Mr. Page?
Actually started with the police department in 1984 and was actually the first group to move into PSC. Prior to PSC, Public Safety Center, the officers were actually at different locations. For example, the old Sears on Broad, excuse me, at Broad and 4th was the police traffic division. There's a division at on Palmer Lane over at engine station number 5. There's also a station at Crystal Towers, I believe, either Crystal or Sunrise. Sunrise Towers.
Yep.
So they actually were assigned to different divisions prior to going into where they are now at PSC in a consolidated operation.
Okay, and this was a 24-hour-a-day operation? Yes. Well, my point was, it seems to me that this is fairly new territory. And I think before you go into a territory that's fairly new, I think everybody believes this is an excellent idea, but I think it's prudent to probably rent before you go out and purchase a district office, you know, and considering that this hasn't been done in 3 different places at one time, it seems to me that this is a pilot program in essence. And I think that all logistics point to the fact that, you know, leasing could be a viable option with the intent to maybe one day own. But again, I support the city manager's recommendation because I think every concern gets addressed in this option. At the same time, we're able to redevelop some pretty historic areas and provide police presence. And the bottom line is this, you know, I keep saying Councilmember Marshall, but you're the finance chair, and the last meeting we talked a little bit about a business improvement district. And 38% of the funds that will be raised potentially from that business improvement district will go towards police services or increased and enhanced security. I think that needs to be done not only in downtown, it should be done in all areas of our city. And there's no way we're gonna be able to do it all at one time. But I think we should at least start the process in a pilot program type of procedure and get the citizens as much services as they like and as they need. And I believe this district office concept is a step in the right direction.
I need to ask a question. How many buildings we actually own where police are carrying out their duties and responsibilities? City owned.
Other than the Public Safety Center, I don't
Yeah,
think we own
We don't own
any of the other ones.
We don't own Beatty building?
Yeah, and Beatty.
Besides the Public Safety and Beatty, those are only 2.
And the Firearms Center.
Now, how many are we leasing?
I don't have
We
that
don't
with
have
me.
that
We do
number.
have a list. I do have a list of them, but I don't have it with me.
Do we
2 or
own
3.
that fine range out there?
Yes.
That's the 3rd one.
So there
I
are 2 or
think-
3 sites that where special operations is, division up on the north side of town is
Right.
leased, where our vice narcotics unit is, that's leased.
The Downtown Bike Patrol is leased.
Well, I know we own that.
Let's
Okay.
bring it back to us. Bring what we own and what we lease. I think that would give us better information. The difference with the leasing this time, if we were to go this way, is that we're asking the owner to upfit it.
Right.
Because I always felt it was wrong for us to buy a building from somebody, then pay him to upfit his own. And I do understand that the fire people are spread out, but I was making sure that our fire department had enough of the facility that they would be housed properly.
They actually need more space. They are packed into the Public Safety Center.
Yes. And then go back to something Councilwoman Mercer brought up about how much ground we still have around that Public Safety Center up there. At one time, it's a condo now. Used to have the recreation,
Tobacco Square.
now what is that facility? We don't have any more police up in there.
No.
No.
And then I think we could look at some spaces still around that area, if there's still some space up there for expansion, yes.
And I think too, at the end of the day, at least for me, I'm gonna look to public safety and city manager and his staff to say, this is what we think is in the best interest of the community long-term. I think we may have gotten the cart before the horse a little bit on this, to look at the options. Or I've been not listening, which is absolutely probably correct. But I do think we maybe need to take at least a step back and just make sure, because this looks like a 25 to 35 year
It is.
plan. I think we just probably need, at least for me, again, need to have a better understanding of where we think we need to go instead of the options available. It's not like life's a box of chocolates. We just, I need a little bit better roadmap of where you want to be in 20.
And also, since you're saying that, I think that what we need to know, each elected officials, we have our desires, our hopes of where we want to go. And I feel that what the chief should do, he should look at the overall plan. Now, he can't say to me, because I got into his ear, I'm not saying I've got to your ear, but I'm and I'm whispering, I want this, want that, and give me, it has to be 8 of us. The communication has to be dealing with the 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 to make 8/8 equal the whole. You understand, city manager?
Oh, yes.
Then when you do it that way, then it won't be somebody saying, I really don't know all that's happening. I do think that we need to know a little bit more. It's not that I'm against, because of that building you're talking about. I don't know, in looking at the city manager's plan, how much that Lucia building, if we start talking about it as a place for public safety, with the owner upfitting it. We've already said Winston Mutual will be doing theirs. Have we voted on that yet?
We have.
All right. That's why you're sitting there so
Y'all
comfortable.
voted on
And then they say there was a need with the Lucia. Could you pull out that building, and then look at the overall, like you say, let's step back a little bit. Now, to lease that Lucia building, what was the amount of money involved?
It was, now, the base lease, I think, was, how much was it, Mr. Turner?
It was 100,000.
But that's before we do the upfit. I mean, we can also go back and talk to the developer about the potential of purchasing part of that site and doing it ourselves. Either we can look at both options.
I think you need to, since we're saying we want to own some of our facilities, and when we look at where we do have public safety buildings and things, overall, we do have a little more spread out, and it's not one, and that's a big area. It is becoming more diverse, and it is growing. And even though we're saying it's not safe there, but there are new people with new ways that they do, and maybe that presence there would help with activities that would take place in a building like that to bring everybody together. Is it any way that we could pull out that part of the discussion?
I think what I'm hearing is we'll bring back the entire plan with Chief Roundtree, talking about how and why he wants to go where he wants to go for the long-term safety of this community.
Yeah, and we're not talking about not the Lucia building. We
No.
still see it as.
Yes, part of it.
Mhm.
Just a comment more so to council in terms of, as we look at this, I think that, I think we're all right in the sense that I think it's important to see what chief and city manager and all of us look at where we want to be long-term, because as I said, these will be, in my opinion, long-term decisions that we make that will impact us for a long period of time. And so we do need to take a look at all of that. I think sometimes in terms of whatever that comes back to say, that even when you look at this map here in strategic locations of how these are placed, sometimes, as we do know, we're a council of 8, sometimes all 8 may not necessarily be happy with what comes, but it's about what's in the best interest of the community and what's going to provide for the base safety and security for the citizens of the community. And I'm sure there have been plenty of times I personally may not have gotten something, or the ward may not have seen something, particularly in participating in something, but I think that if we do it in understanding and knowing that it's the right decision to make, because it's the right decision to make, I think citizens win in that process.
Also, when you look at, did you want to say something?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
please.
you. I need the information of other North Carolina cities that have districts. I think Durham has districts. Kind of give us some history and feedback about that, those cities that have transitioned to that. As we said before, years ago, Winston is growing, and the size that we have now, you just can't have one central location for public safety, whether it's police, fire, or the emergency management. Again, I think the district concept is a good idea, but I also believe, like Councilmember Marshall said and Councilmember Burke, especially with our new chief coming on, I think he needs to have as much engagement with his team as possible and get some feedback from the members of his team as to where they want to go with this. And I think that takes now the cart behind the horse instead of before the horse. If we go back to that square, I know you guys have done a lot of work, but I still believe that the buy-in has to come from the people who are going to be leading from that, that area, which is the chief and his team.
Because if we look at the Public Safety Center, 29 years ago,
Yeah, 1983.
and it has really served a good purpose. They packing in there, it's just about to burst out of the seams, but it has served a good
Yes.
purpose.
Thank you. Members of the committee, Councilman Adams, I just don't want us to take a step back and start walking too slowly. The truth of the matter is, these are things that we don't like to talk about because these meetings are televised, but the truth of the matter is, the people in my ward are hurting. And there are some public safety issues. The police can't solve all of the issues. I think the community have to come together to do that collectively. However, there are issues that can be solved by a greater police presence, which is the reason why we're such in a hurry to do this downtown. And I'm saying I don't mind taking a step back and looking at this thing, but downtown is just as important as the Southeast Ward. It's just as important as the North Ward and all 6 of the other wards in the city. I particularly don't have any part of downtown in my ward. However, if it makes sense to support downtown development, the bike patrol and all that kind of good stuff, I have consistently supported, and I will continue to support that going forward. What I'm asking of you is to understand that there are people in the Southeast Ward who are hurting, and they want a stronger police presence. This isn't something that we've come up with in the last month or two. It's something we've discussed since 2009, 2010. This isn't a new concept on the table, and I'm sure we've been discussing it before that, Councilmember Burke. I've heard you mention that several times. Though I say, let's take a step back, let's look at it, I don't think it should take that long to take a step back. The chief has already articulated what the public safety department needs. He sat here 2 or 3 weeks ago and told us that the Lucia building and the district office concept was a good idea. We've heard from the chief. We understand that the fire department needs a little bit more space. They're busting out of the seams. I don't know in what other language or music that we need to hear this. We've heard from our people. Now let's hear from the chief. I'm okay with that. But I want you to keep in mind my people are hurt and they need some relief. And I'm calling on you and asking you to help me to help the people who I represent. We need the district office and we need it now.
I believe we've heard the point. I don't believe that anyone is saying not to.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
We say we're still looking at the Lucia building. But what has been asked is let us hear from you, give you that respect as the chief coming in, because city manager can't talk for you. He can if he wants to sometimes, because he is the city manager. And Mr. Turner can't talk for you. You're with it every day.
I understand.
That's your charge to
Yes.
make these recommendations. So, city manager, we're not saying not to Lucia. We're saying bring them.
Absolutely.
And one thing that you said in the conversation, we may look at purchasing
Mhm.
something that we could own there, because I agree with you. That area is growing, and it's being improved a great
It
deal.
is, a lot.
With the business people, the neighborhoods, I ride through your area. So it is development. I hear people saying positive things, that new shopping, the shopping center that's coming along. So we're not saying no. We're just saying we're gonna look at it. This is still in our mind, but we're gonna look at the bigger picture of where we're gonna be some years from now.
We'll be back to committee.
Okay.
The chief will be back with his proposal.
Whose hands first? And
And
then,
I bet we're going to ask the same question. In August?
We can come in August, absolutely.
I mean,
Thank you.
we
Mhm.
hear
Mhm.
Councilmember Taylor's impassioned plea for
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, we do. Yes. Are there any other questions?
One
Yes.
comment, and Chief, I don't mean to make it any more difficult for you, but can you also, between you and the city manager and facilities and your assistant city managers, if you find that the Lucia site is preferable and that it is something that we need to look at a long-term, fairly expensive lease, you know, I would like for us to identify some other piece of property
That would-
that we could sell to offset the cost. Because when I look at what we own and what we can or can't use, I think we need a little bit more sensitivity to cost. Buildings, you know, you don't own a building without having to feed it something daily.
All right. Any other questions or comments concerning this item? Where she should be with this item,
One.
attorney?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I noticed again, there, the different sites, there wasn't anything in there for the north and northwest ward. I know we had the circle when we started talking about this 3 or 4 years ago, but I'm wondering, the buildings, you know, have you identified again some buildings that, just like you did here?
We will
And you
need,
can
we-
bring that
yeah,
back,
we'll need to update that. There is
yeah.
a couple sites, but we'll bring that back in that
Okay.
area.
Excuse me?
Okay.
Last comment, and let me just say, I'm fine with not having a police, well, I'm okay with it, because I think police officers make pretty darn good neighbors, but I think Dee Dee and I can share
Yeah.
Mhm.
downtown. You don't need to put a pin necessarily in my ward, so
Yeah.
I was just kidding.
Well, I need one in mine. My communities, again, I got lots of apartments and things like that, housing. And I need, University Parkway is a hot area, University Cherry, yeah.
With this item, attorney, we can move forward.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief, and Mr.
Thank
Turner
you.
for bringing that report. Any other? I need to say, Chief, don't leave. I need to say something that needs to be understood. When an individual goes out to a person, and there's been a problem, there are certain questions that's asked. Well, I think for communication, I remember Councilmember Malloy, and we used to talk about communicating so citizens can understand. For instance, if something happens at my home and a police comes out to talk with me, there are questions that the police may say to me. For instance, let's say someone has stolen something of mine valuable. They'll bring a question up, and the way in which they say it, because it's something valuable, and I may have a nice home, they may see some of my jewelry. The question about drugs, how does it come in a conversation if I'm a drug seller, the reason, or do I involve myself in drugs, the reason I have what I have?
I think the particular case that you're referring to was a stolen vehicle case.
I wasn't going to go into it, but like 2 vehicles stolen from the driveway.
Right, because what we have seen in the past where people actually loan their vehicle out for drugs, or they allow other people to drive their vehicle and then they call the police and report it stolen. That's why certain questions are in place to ask the citizen. Where did you loan your car out for drugs, or do you owe any money on it? Those type of questions.
Yes, but you know, when I read that, I really think that's pretty tough. And it can offend folks. You're hardworking, and you have worked hard for what you have, and you go every day a contributing positive citizen to the community. How can you better communicate if you're trying to find out that question? I think that's something you need to think about with your staff, with
Yes.
your people. Because, see, the police are innocent. They become police, they're inexperienced, they're new, they're asking only what they have been told to ask. But it makes the citizens say, when they look at, let's say, East of 52, are we all drug dealers because we have nice things? a citizen who's a senior citizen, and these were senior citizens,
They were.
were offended. And I would have been offended too if someone had asked me, you have your car stolen, do you all deal in drugs? We can do it better, can't we?
Yes,
we-
we will look at it and see how we can do it better.
Yes, we
Okay,
will.
please do. Mhm. That was all I wanted to bring up, to make sure that we are communicating with our citizens the way in which we should be communicating.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Good.